Frankly, I can take it or leave it. Sometimes I go a month without a drink. Ironically, such statements are intended to prove that the person is in control. In reality, they prove the opposite. Why would anyone need to make such a statement in the first place? Imagine I said to you, frankly, I can take them or leave them. Sometimes I go a month without carrots. Would you think, lucky chap, if only I could do that? Or would you think, what a weird thing to say? Alan obviously has a bit of a hang-up about carrots. And have you noticed how, when we're learning to drink as youngsters and it tastes foul, we brag about the great volume we can consume? But once we've acquired the taste and suspect we're hooked, we boast about how little we drink and the fact that we can take it or leave it. We don't do this about things that we genuinely enjoy. I wouldn't dream of saying, I enjoy playing a hole of golf rather than a round of golf. But people who regularly drink a whole bottle of wine with a meal invariably say, I enjoy a glass of wine with my meal. I'd like £1 for every time I've heard someone say, doctors say a glass of red wine is good for the heart. The statement is usually made by some grossly overweight chain smoker who has already drunk a whole bottle, as if they're drinking not because they're hooked, or even because they claim to enjoy it, but for purely medical reasons. Statements like, alcohol is okay in moderation, are no reason for consuming it. In fact, that particular statement is a frank admission that it's harmful. Why on earth would you need to be moderate if it weren't harmful? It isn't doing me any harm, is another classic excuse commonly given as a reason to justify drinking. We don't do things just because they don't do us any harm. I don't suppose it would do me much harm if I spent the remainder of my life blowing bubbles, but if I offered that as a reason for doing it, you would regard me as a candidate for the funny farm. How much more ridiculous is it to claim that our reason for doing something is that it isn't doing us any harm, when it's blatantly obvious to ourselves and to the rest of the world that it is in fact doing us considerable harm? I call such statements the Joey isn't in the cupboard syndrome. When I was 10, I was playing with my best friend Joey and his 5-year-old brother Ronnie. We spotted his other brother approaching the front door. Joey hid in a cupboard with me and told Ronnie not to tell Tommy where we were. The moment Tommy entered, Ronnie said, "Joey isn't in the cupboard, Tommy." It was an example of saying something designed to deceive the listener, which actually conveys the exact opposite message. You might feel put down if you offer someone a drink and they look at their watch and say something like, "I don't normally drink before 7 p.m. You sense they're implying that you have a serious drink problem because you're in the habit of drinking before 7 p.m. The inclusion of the word normally tells you that they are about to break their golden rule. They'll need a bit more persuasion because they need to blame you. They might even go so far as to jokingly accuse you of getting them into bad habits. In truth, they're delighted that you've allowed them to break a rule without losing face. I used to envy people like that when I had a drink problem. I'd think, aren't you lucky to be able to discipline yourself like that? I was so wrapped up in my own troubles that I never noticed that they broke the rule more times than they kept it. Neither did I realize that what they were actually telling me was that they also had a drink problem. What other reason could they have for such a rule? Another classic giveaway is, "No thanks, I'm driving tonight." Have you noticed that they can never say it without it sounding like they really mean, "Aren't I a goody-goody?" Again, you envy them and ask them if it bothers them not drinking. "No problem, I can take it or leave it." It's said in the same goody-goody tone, but if they could genuinely take it or leave it, why do they go to the trouble and expense of taking a taxi next time? All they're doing is trying to prove to themselves and to the rest of the world that they're not hooked. All they're actually proving is that they are. When they do take a taxi, they won't leave until 2 a.m. and can hardly walk to the vehicle.